Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 26. News of Earth Dragon Grass. Just as Ma Da-jun had said, this matter had nothing to do with him, so once he said what he wanted to say, he quickly departed. He still had to complete the task that Ling Han had commanded him to do. Grandfather, are we really going to do as he had said and obey Ling Dongxing and his son's commands without questions? Ling Muyun asked, gritting his teeth. How could he resign himself to do such a thing? Ling Han was a well-known piece of trash, and for him to actually obey the commands of a piece of trash, just the mere thought of him made him feel stupid. Of course not. Ling Xuanhuan strongly waved his hand. I've worked so hard all these years, how could I allow a piece of trash to ruin all my hard effort? Whether that brat is a real piece of trash or had just been pretending to be one, there is no way that he can stand in the way of me taking over our Ling Clan. But grandfather, what is our next move? Ling Muyun appeared very dazed. Wait, Ling Xuanhuan said in a deep voice, the relations between Chen Clan and us are very tense now. Even though Ling Dongxing can counterattack with Ma Da-jun's help, the Chen Clan is not easily trifled with. Force them into a corner and they would definitely put their all into the fight. At that moment, we will give Ling Dongxing an additional stab in the back, and shove him off the position of the clan head. Ling Muyun's face lit up upon hearing this, but his eyes were filled with a poisonous rage. Grandfather, that brat Ling Han must be handed over to me. I want to kill him with my own hands. You will definitely get your wish, Ling Xuanhuan said with a cold smile. The next morning, Zhu Hixin once again visited the Ling Clan. Now Ling Dongxing finally understood why Ma Da-jun had been so reverent towards his son. It was because even a black-grade alchemist such as Zhu Hixin would stand with both hands at his sides in front of his son, the epitome of an obedient student. This solved the mystery yet caused Ling Dongxing to be even more shocked. Because, in the last case, it was only a yellow-grade alchemist, but now even a black-grade alchemist was so reverent towards his son. What was going on here? The reason behind Zhu Hixin's visit was to pass on some news to Ling Han. There was news that a stalk of earth dragon grass may have appeared on Seven Wind Mountains. When Lu Yutong had gone to purchase the ingredients for concocting the little cloud and water pill a few days ago, she had also asked Zhu Hixin about the ingredients for another pill formula. This pill formula had a total of 4 ingredients that belonged to the extremely rare category. Even Heaven's Medicine Pavilion did not have any of these ingredients in stock. Or rather, the branch in Rain Country did not have them in stock. However, based on his current rank, Zhu Hixin had no way of checking the stock of the bigger branches, not to mention transferring something over. This pill formula was the formula required to concoct a pill to heal Ling Dongxing's spirit base. The name of the pill was Restore Spirit Pill, an Earth-grade medium-level pill. Earth Dragon Grass was one of the 4 missing ingredients this pill formula required. Thus, once he received this piece of news, Zhu Hixin quickly came to personally visit the Ling residence. Of course, while one reason was to inform Ling Han of the important news, he also wanted to come and seek guidance from Ling Han. At other times, he would not dare to come and disturb Ling Han. Ling Han was naturally elated. But after he had carefully asked about the circumstances surrounding the Seven Wind Mountains, he could only decide to temporarily postpone the trip. The reason was, the person who brought the news was a strong warrior of the 9th layer of element gathering tier. By the time he was found by a team of herb gatherers, he was already close to death. He only managed to say, cave, giant red snake, and earth dragon grass before he died. Thus, this led to the conclusion that there was earth dragon grass within the Seven Wind Mountains, yet there should be a giant red snake standing guard over it. It even managed to severely injure a strong warrior of the 9th layer of element gathering tier. Yet Ling Han knew that where there was earth dragon grass, there would usually be a red-scaled dragon snake coiled nearby. The snake would absorb the weak dragon chi released by the earth dragon grass to slowly evolve and complete the transformation from a snake to a dragon. A mature red-scaled dragon snake would possess cultivation comparable to the 9th layer of element gathering tier. Furthermore, because it possessed a bit of the dragon's bloodline, its power far exceeded an ordinary warrior of the 9th layer of element gathering tier. It could be considered to have 1 foot in the gushing spring tier and was an invincible king of the element gathering tier. Should Ling Han enter the Seven Wind Mountains at this stage, even if he managed to find that cave, there was no way he could be an equal opponent to the red-scaled dragon snake. It would be useless even with the help of Lu Yutong, unless Lu Yutong had one foot in the gushing spring tier as well. He would definitely go to the Seven Wind Mountains, but he had to make full preparation for the trip. Moreover, the inner core of the red-scaled dragon snake could be refined into a transcending origin pill. Taking this pill would allow a martial artist in the element gathering tier to directly advance one layer, with the limit being the peak of the third layer of element gathering tier. Additionally, because the red-scaled dragon snake possessed a bit of the dragon's bloodline, its blood and flesh were extremely nutritious and would allow Ling Han to grasp the dead tree tier, the first tier of the Indestructible Heaven Scroll, at a faster rate. He decided to continue working hard at cultivation and only set off towards Seven Wind Mountains once he had broken through to the element gathering tier. He'd also be able to make use of the inner core of the dragon snake to quickly raise his cultivation level to the third layer of element gathering tier then, after which he would easily break through to the fourth layer. Additionally, he also had to raise his own power through actual battle experience and strengthen his foundation. While in his last life he had stood at the summit of martial arts, to be honest, he was not considered the one with the strongest battle power. There was a simple reason for that. His cultivation progress was faster than an average cultivator's because he had possessed a heaven-grade high-level spirit base, but if he battled with a warrior of the same cultivation level, he would still have to take into account his opponent's battle tactics and the level of control he had over his use of martial arts skills. In his last life, Ling Han was definitely extremely intelligent, for how else could he become the first Alchemy Emperor ever, a record that no one has ever managed to achieve and likely no one else will ever achieve. However, there were definitely limits to one's time and energy. He had spent most of his time on alchemy research and concocting alchemical pills. Whatever time he had left he spent on raising his cultivation level, so how much time did he have left to refine his martial arts skills? But this was no problem, for his cultivation progress was much too fast. With the additional support of alchemical pills, how could his opponents be able to compare with him? He only had to use the difference in cultivation levels to crush his opponents. He needed not use any kind of tactics. But once he reached the summit of martial arts, this weakness was revealed. In Ling Han's last life, there were in total 7 strong warriors of the heaven tier. Based purely on actual battle power, he was definitely at the bottom. The reason was the fact that he had depended on the use of alchemical pills to increase his cultivation level and didn't really have much of an actual battle experience. It could be said that his cultivation level of heaven tier had actually been quite hollow. Of course, if he had spent more than 100 years to continue training in martial arts skills, he would definitely be able to compensate for this inadequacy. After all, he was still too young. A 300-year-old of the heaven tier was still a very rare existence in history. Such people could be counted on the fingers of one hand. In this life, Ling Han no longer wanted to become this kind of paper tiger warrior, so he definitely needed to leave a deep footprint behind his every step. Each step had to be taken firmly. Ling Han had no excess thoughts. Aside from cultivating the 5 elements heaven grade skill every day, he also began to refine his martial arts skills. In his last life, he had given up on using yellow grade and black grade martial arts skills at a very early stage. He had mostly just stuck to using heaven grade martial arts skills, and only sometimes would he deign to use earth grade martial arts skills. But now, he could only use yellow grade martial arts skills. As a result, he needed to work very hard on cultivating and make himself become an indomitable ruler of all those with the same cultivation level, and not just obtain his victories by taking advantage of the difference in cultivation level between him and his opponents. However, he had in his hands a large variety of high-level martial arts skills, but very few low-level ones. That was natural. In his previous life, he had been a strong warrior of heaven tier. Even if he had discovered any black grade or yellow grade martial arts skills in a historical site, how would it be possible that he would train in any of them? He may flip through some of them, but there were definitely few of them. Thankfully, he had also been a martial artist that had slowly worked his way up from the bottom in his last life, so he still possessed a few low-level martial arts skills. Shocking electricity sword arts, flying fire palm arts, dashing panther fist, and exiting cloud step were all yellow grade high-level martial arts skills. However, what caused Ling Han to feel a little embarrassed was the fact that he had not cultivated these 4 martial arts skills to the highest level in his last life, for he was always busy with concocting pills. So, he just had to start all over again. He was still young anyways. Ling Han began with shocking electricity sword arts. The reason was simple. His current cultivation level was still too low, so he needed the support of a weapon to increase his strength, and the favorite weapon of most martial artists were either a sword or a saber. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 27. Sword Chi. Ling Han decided to head to Balance Mountain for training. Balance Mountain was about 80 kilometers north of Grey Cloud Town. It was not a very large mountain. Even the continuous length and breadth of it measured just over 100 kilometers. There were 4 towns within the mountain's vicinity, and their residents largely depended on the mountain for their livelihood. The reason being, this mountain had both medicinal herbs as well as demonic beasts, and to a martial artist, both of these things were beneficial. Unlike the gigantic mountain range that was the 7 Wind Mountains, where the demonic beasts were extremely powerful to the point that even strong warriors of the spiritual ocean tier dared not venture too deeply, the strongest demonic beast in Balance Mountain was only in the element gathering tier and could only be found in the innermost parts of the mountain range. Thus, as long as they did not venture too deeply into the mountain range, Balance Mountain was an excellent training grounds for a martial artist in the body refining tier. Ling Han knew very well that purely practicing would never let him train in a martial arts skill to the highest level. To achieve that, he had to experience actual battle. Although Ling Dongxing did not want his son to take risks, he also knew that it was impossible for a real martial artist to grow up protected like a plant in a greenhouse. Moreover, Lu Yutong would be by Ling Han's side to protect him, so naturally he did not need to worry that they would encounter some danger. Therefore, he agreed. He was also very busy now. He was currently making preparations for the counterattack against the Cheng clan while also reorganizing the Ling clan to regain power over the clan, which Ling Zhongquan had partially taken over these past few years. Ling Han and Lu Yutong very quickly began their journey, setting off towards Balance Mountain. As Balance Mountain was quite close by, they did not need to bring too much baggage with them and had only brought 2-3 changes of clothing. Yet, even so, they still carried a sizable bundle, each. This caused Ling Han to miss the spatial ring from his previous life. A spatial ring seemed to be not much different from a normal ring, yet there was an incredible space within it that could accommodate a large number of items. If you were going on a trip, bringing a spatial ring along would be very convenient. However, the method to create spatial rings was long lost with the passage of time, so there was only an extremely limited number available. In his last life, only a strong warrior of at least flower blossom tier could possess one. Otherwise, even if you had very luckily obtained one, it would still bring a fatal disaster to you as its owner. A spatial ring was something extremely valuable. They traveled by foot. A distance of 80 kilometers was nothing much to a martial artist and they only spent about 2 hours on their journey. The 2 of them set off in the morning and they had already entered the vicinity of Balance Mountain by noon. They could hear the distant roars of tigers and cries of monkeys. As they looked everything over, a strongly fragrant, primitive, desolate air blew against their faces. Let's go. Ling Han walked in front, and said, as long as it's a demonic beast in the body refining tier, you don't have to do anything. Just leave it to me. Very well. Lu Yutong nodded. However, Balance Mountain was not a place that was filled to the brim with demonic beasts. Although the 2 deliberately searched for them, they did not encounter even one. They didn't even encounter any ordinary wild beast. As the sky slowly darkened, the 2 of them began to feel hungry. They had only brought a small amount of food as emergency rations. They had actually intended to hunt the demonic beasts on the mountain for food. We have to quickly hunt a demonic beast. Otherwise, we'll have to go hungry tonight, Ling Han said as he brandished the iron sword in his hand. He had bought the sword before he had departed for the journey. It was considerably expensive, being priced at 10 silver coins. It would be enough against a demonic beast of body refining tier, but against a demonic beast of element gathering tier, it wouldn't even be able to break through its defense. Moreover, he was not an equal opponent for a demonic beast in the element gathering tier anyway. Lu Yutong suddenly stopped walking. What is it? Have you heard something? Ling Han said with a bit of excitement. My shoelaces came undone. Lu Yutong crouched down. He never imagined that this woman had a bit of a sense of humor. Ling Han shrugged and waited until Lu Yutong stood up. The two of them then continued their way forward. However, they had not walked too far before Lu Yutong once again crouched down. Your shoelaces came undone again? Ling Han asked. No, I heard something. Lu Yutong looked over in a particular direction. Her expression was still icy cold. This woman definitely had a cold sense of humor. Ling Han too glanced in the same direction. Lu Yutong was in the element-gathering tier, so her sight and hearing were much stronger than his. The shrubs in front of them were shaking, as if something was making its way out. Very quickly, a gigantic wolf's head emerged, rapidly followed by the appearance of its body. It was about the size of a water buffalo and was blood-red in color, though its skin had several rotting scars scattered all over its body. It looked a little disgusting. Our luck's not bad, this is a rotten blood wolf. Ling Han's eyes lit up. Cultivating the indestructible Heaven Scroll required various valuable materials to support his training, and the fresh-blooded demonic beasts was currently the best material available, while the rotten blood wolf could be considered as one of the strongest demonic beasts in the body refining tier. Be careful, Lu Yutong reminded. A mature rotten blood wolf was a being in the 9th layer of body refining tier. Other than that, demonic beasts always had a big advantage over humanity when it came to strength and defense, and that was the case even when a demonic beast and a human cultivator had similar cultivation. The advantage of martial artists, on the other hand, was in the fact that they could use various martial arts skills and weapons to greatly increase their own power. However, Ling Han was only in the 7th layer of body refining tier now. There was too big a gap between him and the rotten blood wolf. Moreover, a martial artist could die at any moment in a battle against a demonic beast. The battle would not end even if you shout, "Stop," or "I give up." Don't worry, Ling Han smiled. Wielding the iron sword in his hand, his expression immediately became serious. The rotten blood wolf continuously released deep growls. In front of it stood two people. The man did not look very threatening to it, but the woman standing behind him caused the wolf to feel dread. However, due to the ferocious nature of a demonic beast, it was not willing to give up its prey. The blood and flesh of demonic beasts were considered extremely nutritious to any martial artist, but martial artists were likewise a very nutritious meal to demonic beasts. The rotten blood wolf was very cautious. It did not attack right away. Yutong, step back, Ling Han said. Wolves were an extremely patient, very careful species. It must have sensed Lu Yutong's hidden strength. Lu Yutong frowned faintly. Considering the current distance, she would be able to help him in time if he needed it. But if this distance increased, then should Ling Han encounter any danger, she might not be able to do anything to help him. Trust me, Ling Han smiled. Lu Yutong finally stepped back slowly. The rotten blood wolf's ferocious nature was immediately roused. The claws of its front paws dug into the ground and its jaws opened, revealing 2 rows of sharp dagger-like teeth, exuding a cold air. Ling Han crooked his finger, and said, "You big stupid dog, come, come, come." Ow! The rotten blood wolf released a howl, pouncing abruptly at a very surprising speed. Ling Han did not panic. With a wave of his long sword, the shocking electricity sword arts had already been initiated. Sure, only one sword stabbed forward, yet 2 flashes of cold light appeared. One of them was the sword itself, while the other was a white-colored energy. Sword chi. Lu Yutong could not help breathing out in shock. Sword chi was the symbol of a swordsman, just like a saber's wielder needed to have saber chi. It was incomparably sharp, and extremely powerful. She had not formed sword chi, yet she knew the difficulty of achieving it. She had an uncle who had been acclaimed as a genius in the art of the sword, yet he had only formed sword chi after 5 years of immersing himself in the path of the sword. Was this guy really human? Ling Han felt no surprise, however. Forming sword chi was only a natural course of event. His goal was sword ray. Sword ray was the solid form of sword chi. Its power was even stronger. Unfortunately, he had not spent much time on sword arts in his last life, so he had only formed sword chi, and did not manage to form sword ray. The prerequisite for forming sword ray was that one thrust of the sword would have tens of flashes of sword chi, which then had to be condensed into sword ray. Just now, he had only managed to release one flash of sword chi. He still had a very long way to go. The next step from sword ray was sword heart. This was the highest level one could achieve on the path of the sword. However, against a rotten blood wolf, one flash of sword chi was more than enough. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 28. Green Spiritual Fruit. As the shocking electricity sword arts unfolded, Ling Han's long sword moved freely, his figure graceful. Accompanying the display of shocking electricity sword arts was the exiting cloud step. Every step was about 4 or 5 meters long, sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right, suddenly forwards, suddenly backwards. His steps appeared strange and were extremely quick, becoming a blur to any observer's eyes. Lu Yutong looked on from the side and could not help nodding her head in secret. If she suppressed her cultivation level to the 7th layer of body refining tier, she would definitely not be able to perform as well as Ling Han. Rather, she would probably be facing danger from all sides by now. After all, there was a big difference in cultivation level between Ling Han and his opponent 2 layers. Furthermore, the opponent was a demonic beast. Normally, in a battle between a martial artist and a demonic beast, the martial artist needed to have a slight advantage in cultivation level to attain victory. If the cultivation levels of the martial artist and the demonic beast were about the same, then the martial artist had a higher chance of losing. After all, not every martial artist was a battle genius. Ling Han's sword moves were becoming more and more fluid. His steps were natural and smooth as he enjoyed the pleasure of battling. He had really put too much focus into the path of alchemy in his last life. In terms of martial arts, he used to care about cultivation level only. His whole journey upwards had just been a superficial understanding of martial arts. But this time, as he once again stepped onto the path of martial arts, he suddenly discovered that martial arts could actually be very interesting too. The rotten blood wolf had become his sparring partner, allowing him to practice his moves to his heart's content, tempering his grasp of the shocking electricity sword arts. 10 minutes later, the rotten blood wolf was already covered with cuts and bruises. This caused it to become very fearful. This seemingly weak human was actually so powerful. It did not want to retreat, but it feared even more that not only would the two not become an offering to its fangs, but it itself would become a meal for these 2 humans. There's no escape. Ling Han laughed loudly. The sword moved as he wielded it too. 2 flashes of sword chi were simultaneously released in between the glints of cold light. 2 flashes of sword chi. He had finally broke through. Pooh! Blood splattered as a crimson flower suddenly blossomed on the neck of the rotten blood wolf. Its large body toppled over with a loud noise, its eyes open wide as if it still could not believe that a human at the 7th layer of body refining tier would actually be able to kill it. Demonic beasts had a very high level of intelligence. Powerful demonic beasts could even possibly have intelligence comparable to a human's. Ling Han nodded. The power of 2 flashes of sword chi was indeed huge. Previously, 1 flash of sword chi only allowed him to fight on equal footing with the rotten blood wolf, but 2 flashes allowed him to kill it in an instant. As expected, even if the cultivation level was the same, there could still be a large discrepancy in actual strength of different martial artists. At the side, Lu Yutong was once again shocked into speechlessness. Just this little bit of time, and Ling Han had improved from 1 flash of sword chi to 2. If that uncle of hers knew about this, wouldn't he be shamed to the point of jumping into a river and drown himself? As that uncle of hers had spent more than 30 years to form 4 flashes of sword chi, he was already acclaimed as a genius swordsman by the whole clan. But, when compared to Ling Han, however, she did not know how far ahead Ling Han's starting line was, or how terrifying his comprehension ability was. Otherwise, how would he have been able to achieve heaven tier by 200 years old in his last life? Dinner's settled, Ling Han said with a smile. The 2 of them found a small brook. Settling by the brook, they cleaned the body of the rotten blood wolf. They naturally wouldn't waste the blood of a demonic beast and so poured all the blood into a pouch. Afterwards, Ling Han would bath himself in the blood to absorb the essence of it to temper his own body. They started a fire and cut off the wolf's leg for barbecue. After sprinkling some salt on it, a fragrant aroma very quickly wafted out. There shouldn't be too many demands when on a trip out in the wilderness. After they had washed the wolf's leg with clean water from the brook and it had dried, the sky had already completely darkened. They did not continue their journey onwards. Instead, they both sat cross-legged by the brook and began cultivating. Ling Han bathed himself in the blood of the demonic beast. He started to circulate Indestructible Heaven Scroll to extract the concentrated essence of the blood for his own use. After merely slightly more than 10 minutes, this dense, sticky beast's blood became watery and diluted. The essence within it was already completely spent. Like I thought, improving one's physique is truly quite difficult. Ling Han thought. Let's use an example. If a martial artist in the element gathering tier was consciously defending using origin power covering his body while being freely attacked by a martial artist of body refining tier, it would be impossible for the latter to break through this layer of defense. However, if they didn't try to defend, the defense of a martial artist of element gathering tier was not much stronger than a martial artist's of body refining tier. For instance, should a martial artist in element gathering tier be ambushed by a martial artist in body refining tier when asleep, then the chances were high that he would die due to his carelessness. Meanwhile, strengthening one's physique would ensure that this defense would be a passive and permanent one, active even when asleep or unconscious. However, the strengthening of the physique was an extremely difficult task that required the expense of a large amount of valuable natural treasures. Ling Han had been the previous type, and had not spent much effort on strengthening his physique in his last life. Of course, the reason why the beast's blood could be refined so quickly was because the Indestructible Heaven Scroll was much too powerful and shockingly efficient. Otherwise, for other kinds of cultivation techniques like stone skin skill, it might require about 3 or 4 days' time to be completely refined. Ling Han could clearly feel that his muscles had become denser and his skin tougher. If a sharp piece of rock was drawn over his skin, the most it would do would be leaving behind a white mark. Very soon, he should be able to achieve the physique of Dead Tree tier. After the night had passed, the two of them continued their journey on the mountain, seeking demonic beasts to battle. From the second day onwards, it seemed as if their luck had taken a turn for the better as they continuously encountered demonic beasts. This did not just provide Ling Han with a very good chance for accumulating actual battle experience, but also provided him with a large supply of beast's blood, allowing him to continuously advance in his cultivation of Indestructible Heaven Scroll. On the fourth day, they exited the forest and saw 5 people sitting in a clearing not too far ahead. The 5 of them looked as if they had gone through a huge battle, every one of them looking quite miserable. These 5 were all youngsters, all of them less than 20 years old. 3 of the group had achieved the 9th layer of body refining tier while the other 2 were in the 8th layer. In a small place like Grey Cloud Town, based on their individual cultivation level, the 5 of them could definitely be praised as geniuses. Lu Yutong immediately took out a veil to conceal her face. She was born too beautiful and her unworldly beauty easily caused problems, though she herself had no fear of such problems. "Brother, which town are you from?" one of the young men asked. His tone was filled with confidence, hinting that he should be from some large, wealthy clan. Ling Han smiled, and said, "Grey Cloud Town. We're all from Guo Rock Town," that young man continued to say, and began to introduce his group. "I am Lu Dong, he's Chen Pengju, he's Li Hao, that guy's Zhou Chang, and this beauty here is Zhu Zhu, the noble Miss Zhu." Note: Guo mean outer city wall. Ling Han nodded at the 5 of them, and said, "I'm Ling Han, and this here is Lu Yutong. Ling Han, we discovered a green spiritual fruit just now, yet there is a very powerful demonic beast standing guard nearby, so we have no way of getting to it. How about it, are you interested in working together with us?" Lu Dong suggested to Ling Han. The reason behind his friendly attitude was revealed by his words. Oh, Ling Han's heart stirred. A green spiritual fruit would not only improve the cultivation level of a martial artist, it was also very beneficial for a martial artist preparing to break through to the element gathering tier. The 5 people in front of him were very close to achieving the peak of the 9th layer of body refining tier. Should they consume a green spiritual fruit at this stage, it would be extremely helpful to their breakthrough. Spiritual fruits were different from alchemical pills. They were completely natural treasures, so consuming them had no side effects, unlike how it was the case with alchemical pills. If one were to continuously take alchemical pills, traces of poisonous impurities present in alchemical pills would accumulate within their body. However, there were some spiritual fruits that possessed effects so strong that they had to be refined into pills before they could be consumed. Otherwise, it would be the same as committing suicide. What level is that demonic beast? Ling Han asked. Miasma Cloud Beast, 9th layer of body refining tier, Zhou Chang replied. Ling Han suddenly understood why even these 5 people were powerless. As the miasma cloud beast would continuously release large amounts of poisonous miasma during battle, fighters had to hold their breath. However, in a violent battle, even for a martial artist, how long would they be able to hold their breath for? Thus, without crushing power to end the battle in a very short period of time, there would be no way to defeat a miasma cloud beast. However, you must first receive a saber attack from me to prove that you possess sufficient strength. Li Hao spoke and brandished the saber in his hand, his face showing a very cool expression, fully intent on showing off. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 29. Take a saber attack from me. You have to be careful, he's in the 9th layer of body refining tier. Furthermore, his nickname is Saber Maniac. He never jokes around when talking about sabers. Zhu Zuyi cautioned, if your cultivation level is not above the 7th layer of body refining tier, then it's better if you don't take his attacks head-on. Ling Han nodded with a smile, and said, I only need to take one attack from you. Just one, Li Hao continued to say very coolly and arrogantly, looking like some kind of master swordsman. Very well, come on then. Ling Han did not boast of his own abilities, nor did he display any disdain towards his opponent. He only nodded very calmly in response. Li Hao moved and arrived in front of Ling Han. His right hand was placed on the hilt of the saber at his waist, but he made no move to draw it out yet. His left foot was in front while his right foot remained at the back. His upper body leaned slightly forwards, his expression one of complete concentration. Ling Han was slightly surprised this guy actually looked a little decent, and vaguely had the bearing of a swordsman. Li Hao drew his saber abruptly, and a flash of cold light blazed and slashed swiftly towards Ling Han. Ding! A sharp sound echoed and sparks flew. Ling Han managed to draw his sword in time, scraping it against the blade of the saber. However, the long sword did not go against the saber head-on. Instead, it drew all the way from the saber's tip right to the saber's hilt and in this way managed to dissipate the heavy weight of the saber. The sword's movement was extremely quick. Li Hao's saber attack was unexpectedly ended. Zhu Zuyi and the rest of her companions were all shocked. The power Ling Han displayed in this one strike was obviously only the 7th layer of body refining tier, yet he managed to dissolve Li Hao's full power slash, exhibiting more than exceptional sword skills. You pass, Li Hao nodded, a very arrogant expression on his face. Yet Ling Han gave a flick of his long sword, and said, you two should take an attack from me. Ha ha, are you testing me? Li Hao gave a big laugh. Although Ling Han managed to take a saber attack from him, this did not signify that he would be able to fight on even footing with him. These were completely two different issues. Something like that, Ling Han said with a smile. Do you dare? Then bring it on, Li Hao said confidently. When they exchanged blows previously, he had confirmed that Ling Han's cultivation level was only in the 7th layer of body refining tier. Although the two of them were both similarly in the late stage of body refining tier, the difference of 2 layers was still very distinct. The sword in Ling Han's hand moved in an elaborate manner and suddenly pierced forwards, aiming directly at Li Hao's neck. Li Hao naturally did not fear Ling Han's attack. He brandished his saber in a block. With a ding, the long sword stopped its approach right in front of his throat, missing by a hair's breadth. You've lost. Ling Han withdrew his sword. I clearly blocked your. Li Hao was just about to speak, when he saw that Ling Han gave a flick of his sword, an array of white-colored cold light flashed swiftly. Sword chi. Lu Dong and his company simultaneously gasped in shock. Li Hao could not help the darkening of his expression. He naturally knew the power of sword chi, so he nodded and said, I've lost. If Ling Han had released sword chi just now, then he currently would only be a dead body. Lu Dong and company were shocked half to death. The fact that Ling Han had managed to parry Li Hao's saber previously had already made them feel very impressed. But now this was actually a guy who had even formed sword chi. He really was inconceivable. Li Hao's fighting spirit rose again, and said, "Let us spar once more." He had not yet experienced a battle with someone who could form sword chi. This was a rare opportunity. Very well. Ling Han nodded in agreement. He had a slight intent to train Li Hao as he thought that this brat would be able to step onto the path of an actual swordsman. As he spoke, his right hand flicked, and his long sword once again flashed out. Li Hao naturally would give it his best, and hurriedly brandished his saber in a slash. He wanted to use the weight of the saber to force Ling Han to fly out of the spar. He opted to attack instead of pure defense. Ding, 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 the two fighters battled fiercely. Li Hao was not instantly killed this round. However, he suffered quite a bit as Ling Han had started to use sword chi, which left many wounds on Li Hao's body. Tens of moves later, Li Hao decisively surrendered. If they continued to battle, he might really bleed to death. Sword chi is indeed powerful, he said, both frustrated and excited. Should he be able to form saber chi, then the situation might be completely different. Do not be discouraged, you are already quite skilled, Ling Han said aptly. Although he had not spent much time on sword arts in his last life, how intelligent was he? Moreover, he had once achieved the summit of heaven tier. His one day's training would be comparable to a year's training of a person in body refining tier, or even a few years' training. Just how old was Li Hao that he could actually spar with him? Zhu Ziyi and company were both shocked and overjoyed. Their shock was due to the fact that Li Hao was the strongest amongst them yet was still unfit to be Ling Han's opponent. Their joy was because their chances of obtaining the green spiritual fruit had increased greatly now with the help of such a master swordsman. The group of 7 set off on their way to where the green spiritual fruit was located. So it seems that Brother Ling is the heir to the Ling Clan of Grey Cloud Town. That's strange, we should have long heard of a genius existence like Brother Ling. On the way to their destination, Ling Han had become the focus of the 5 young people's attention, and so naturally was barraged by their questions. This was normal. His predecessor had no idea that he had possessed an immortal grade spirit base, neither did he know the 5 elements heaven grade skill. It'd be strange if he was well known. Ling Han only answered that he had been more subdued in the past, and thus deflected this question. Though Zhu Ziyi and her companions also had much interest in Lu Yutong, she was icily silent all the while, and Ling Han too did not seem like he was going to introduce her, thus they could only feel curious in their hearts. Close to an hour later, they finally arrived at an extremely moist place. In front of them, there suddenly appeared a cave. They hadn't even entered the cave yet but could already smell a disgusting stink. However, they could vaguely see a plant that was about a meter tall. Its stem had no leaves, looking like a sugarcane. However, there hung several fruits from it, neither too many nor too few, exactly 7 of them. If we go any closer, we'd be affected by the miasma poison. We must hold our breaths if we want to advance forwards. That miasma cloud beast is very cunning, it would definitely not leave the sphere of influence of the miasma poison. We have to draw that miasma cloud beast out. As long as we can obstruct it for a few breaths' time, we'll be able to extract the spiritual fruits. Miss Lu and Zhu Yi will be responsible for extracting the green spiritual fruits. Us 5 men will be in charge of obstructing the miasma cloud beast. Agreed. This was mostly directed at Ling Han. They would both have 1 person on the team obtain the fruits to avoid either party snatching the fruits and fleeing. Ling Han smiled and nodded. If they knew what Lu Yutong's cultivation level was, then they probably might not offer this kind of suggestion. We have to draw the miasma cloud beast out first. If we start the battle in the cave, then we would not be able to take advantage of our superior numbers, Zhou Chang said. The 5 men all drew out their respective weapons, banging them against each other to create a clamor. It took only a while before a creature which looked similar to a wild hog ran out of the cave. There were air sacs all over its body that kept on releasing a grey fog. 2 long, thick fangs protruded outside its lips, looking like 2 short spears, exuding a strong pressure. This was the miasma cloud beast. With its power, it could be considered to be in the upper echelons of the body refining tier's demonic beasts. The miasma cloud beast appeared at the cave entrance, yet it did not attack. It only growled deeply and bared its teeth at the 5 humans in front of it. The air sacs all over its body continuously released a grey fog, forming a dark cloud above it. Let's go. Zhou Chang gave a loud shout and made the first move. Lu Dong, Chen Pengju and Li Hao followed closely behind. The 4 of them simultaneously brandished their respective weapons and flew towards the miasma cloud beast. However, Ling Han made no movement. Instead, he stayed behind, silently watching. 4 against 1. Although Li Hao and his companions had the advantage in numbers, under the continuous influence of the poisonous miasma, they could not display their full prowess and very quickly were on the losing side. They could not help feeling very worried hadn't they made an agreement to join forces and attack together. Why was Ling Han just standing there by the side and watching? Sure. Right at that moment, Ling Han drew his sword quickly, as if he was moving at the speed of light. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 30. Hang Zan who charged out midway. This sword move was really very cleverly timed as the miasma cloud beast had just defended against the combined attacks of Lu Dong and his companions and its defense had weakened, creating an opportunity for Ling Han. Sure. The long sword waved, seemingly like a deity descended from the heavens. With a pooh sound, the sword pierced through the right eye of the miasma cloud beast and deeper into its body, driving in all the way until the hilt. Peng! The miasma cloud beast fell heavily onto the ground. It was actually killed in one blow. What? Mother. See. Lu Dong and the others, including Zhu Zuyi who had been in hiding, inhaled sharply in shock. That was an actual miasma cloud beast, one of the strongest amongst demonic beasts in body refining tier. And yet, it was killed in one blow. How could they accept something this unbelievable? But immediately, they took to their heels. If one spoke, they would naturally inhale air. They had all inhaled a bit of miasma poison just now, thus they had to circulate their respective cultivation techniques as soon as possible to dissolve the poison. Otherwise, their internal organs could very likely corrode. After a while, Lu Dong was the first to walk towards Ling Han, and patting his shoulder, he said, I thought you brat were already scared to the point that you couldn't move, but you're actually so strong. Your one strike could actually be so swift. Ha ha, Brother Ling is truly powerful to actually kill the miasma cloud beast in one blow. Li Hao said. To be able to witness such a clean, decisive slash, he too felt immeasurably excited since he was a swordsman himself. Ling Han only smiled. The lower the cultivation level, the easier it would be for one with a lower cultivation level to challenge someone with a higher cultivation level. Moreover, the miasma cloud beast had had most of its attention focused on Lu Dong and the rest just now, which gave him the chance to kill it in one strike. If it was a one-on-one battle, Ling Han would definitely not be able to fight the miasma cloud beast on even grounds unless he had taken the antidote to the miasma poison beforehand. After the miasma poison had dissipated, they plucked the green spiritual fruits one by one, but did not damage the plant itself. The plan they came up with just now was because they were short on time, and so could only choose to uproot the plant. But now that the miasma cloud beast was dead, they naturally had no need to do such a thing. This after all was a natural spiritual medicine. Damaging it would equal damaging the harmony of nature. 7 green spiritual fruits they each could obtain one. However, though Lu Yutong had put hers away, she would definitely hand it over to Ling Han later. Heng, leave the spiritual fruits behind. They heard a cold voice speak. 2 men walked over to them, one in front while the other remaining behind. One was young while the other was old. The younger one seemed to be about 20+ years old, while the older man appeared to be about 70 or 80 years old, with a head full of white hair. The speaker was the young man. He was walking in front while the old man followed him from behind like a servant. Ling Han glanced at the approaching pair. With the insight of a warrior in heaven tier, he could immediately tell that the young man was in the 9th layer of body refining tier while the old man had already reached the 9th layer of element gathering tier. Who do you think you are to be so arrogant? Lu Dong immediately stood, yelling at the unknown young man. However, that young man's gaze swept over Zhu Zuyi's dainty figure and beautiful face, revealing a covetous expression. Then, he disdainfully said, you don't even know I, Hang Zan. He. Then you should have heard of Stone Wolf sect, right? I am the eldest grandson of the seventh elder of Stone Wolf Sect. Stone Wolf Sect. Hearing these 3 words, the expressions on the faces of Lu Dong and the others all changed into ones filled with dread. In Rain Country, one couldn't casually proclaim themselves a sect or a faction. Faction, sect, association, and society from highest to lowest, these were the 4 different levels. Only a party that possessed a warrior of the spiritual ocean tier could claim to be a faction, one with a master in the gushing spring tier could be proclaimed a sect. A party that only had a warrior in element gathering tier could be claimed as association, while society would be those in the lowest category. The Stone Wolf sect was the greatest party within 1,000 miles. According to rumors, the 9 great elders were all warriors in the gushing spring tier, while the sect master was an individual standing at the pinnacle of the 9th layer of gushing spring tier. If this Hang Zan was telling the truth and his grandfather really was the 7th elder of the Stone Wolf Gate, then he indeed had a terrifying background. Ha 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 ha, now do you know who I am? Leave the spiritual fruits and all of you break one of your arms, then you can get lost. However, these 2 girls must stay behind. Hang Zan once again looked at Lu Yutong. Although he could not see her face, her graceful figure still caused his heart to throb. With his rich experience of encounters with women, this girl definitely had to be a beauty. Lu Dong and his fellows were extremely furious. They could leave behind the spiritual fruits, but to actually have each of them break one of their arms. Should a martial artist break his own arm, that would be the same as destroying his own future. Zhu Ziyi shivered. She knew why he wanted her to stay behind, and this made her feel disgusted, furious and fearful, all at the same time. Do you still intend to resist me? Hang Zan smiled coldly. Elder Yu, make him feel despair. Yes, young master, the white-haired old man behind him replied respectfully before slowly walking over to them. He originally had a bent figure, being the embodiment of a senile old man. Yet now, his back straightened a bit with each step and his aura kept increasing, quickly causing Lu Dong and the others to pale. 9th layer of element gathering tier. In truth, Lu Dong and the others could not tell what Elder Yu's cultivation level was. They only knew that he was much stronger than them by a large margin. But no matter what layer of element gathering tier he was at, to suppress a few youngsters in body refining tier would be as easy as flipping his hand over. They were finished. Lu Dong and the others looked ashen. Although they were extremely unwilling, they could not help but admit that their backgrounds could not compare with the newcomers. As for comparing their own strength with their opponents, they were also unable to do so. You, take off your veil, Hang Zan said, pointing at Lu Yutong. The more he stared at Lu Yutong's figure, the more the fire in his heart blazed and the more he wanted to see her true face. Should Lu Yutong's true appearance not reach his expectations, he would definitely kill her in one strike for making him expect this much for nothing. Consequences. Hang Zan naturally never thought about such a thing. The Stone Wolf sect was the king in this area. As long as they did nothing treasonous towards Rain Country, then so what if he killed a few people? Lu Yutong naturally would not even bother to respond. Did you not hear me? Hang Zan was a little upset. He was used to being arrogant and bossy. The thing that infuriated him the most was if someone dared to disobey his commands. Lu Yutong looked at Ling Han. After seeing the smile plastered all over Ling Han's face, she then slowly reached towards her veil and calmly took it off. In an instant, it was as if their whole surroundings lit up. How could there be such a beautiful girl in this world? What an outstanding beauty, how devastatingly beautiful. Though her demeanor was as cold as an iceberg, it caused one to have an even stronger desire to conquer her. To be able to have this beauty become a charming pet at his knee, what sense of accomplishment would that be? Lu Dong and the rest were amazed to the point of losing their breath first, but then immediately felt pity, for this kind of outstanding beauty was about to fall into the hands of Hang Zan. Hang Zan naturally was extremely surprised and joyous. He had never imagined that he would actually encounter such a beauty. His eyes were wide to the point that they seemed as if they were about to pop out. He laughed loudly and said, "Beauty, come here. Be careful, young master, she's in the element gathering tier." Elder Yu suddenly spoke up, his wrinkled face filled with utmost seriousness. He could not tell this woman's actual power. It was possible to see the cultivation level of someone with lower cultivation than oneself, but this required both parties to be at a close enough distance. Just like Elder Yu, he was far beneath Lu Yutong in power, so he could only identify that Lu Yutong's cultivation level had already reached the element-gathering tier, but could not tell exactly what her cultivation level was. Lu Dong and his group, as well as Hang Zan, all experienced a great shock, displaying expressions of complete disbelief.